Welcome back to Wes Explains Best. Today we're talking about section 8.6 notes, factoring ax squared plus bx plus c. These are a little bit more difficult than our normal factoring because there's a coefficient in front of the x squared term. I already have the steps out here. Feel free to pause at any time, but we're going to go ahead and get started with some examples. So here we have factor the greatest common factor. That's placed outside the parentheses. Okay, GCF, that means if we're looking at these three terms, we're looking for anything they have in common between the three of them. So is there anything? Well, variables, no, because not all three have an x. But if we're looking at the coefficients, the numbers, we notice that there's a 2, a factor of 2, and a factor of 2. So what we're going to do first is we are going to factor out a 2. And what happens when we do that? We are left with x squared plus 8x plus 15 inside. Notice how we have the 2 outside of the parentheses. So we're done with step 1. Step 2, we're going to set up parentheses. So what does that mean? Well, we're not done with 1. If we have a trinomial, okay, usually we're going to try to factor this with 2 sets of parentheses for two binomials multiplied together. So that's what I mean by set up parentheses. Check. That's a sloppy check. Check. That's not as good. That's better. Okay. Determine factors of A and C. So what we're going to do is A and C. A is the coefficients in front of x squared. And then C is this last guy here. This last term. Let me get rid of that blue. I'm going to change this to blue. So this guy. Actually, I'm going to change this to 1. Make this 2 straight lines. There we go. So our factors of 15 go here. And our factors of x squared go here in the first slot. This is kind of like the previous video, the previous set of notes. We talked about this already. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to look for factors of x squared, and we're going to look for factors of 15, and their sum needs to give us the middle term, 8x. So x squared is pretty easy. There's only one combination, which is x and x gives us x squared. 15, there's a couple. We could have negatives, but because the middle term is positive, we're not going to consider the negatives because both of these are positive, meaning our factors of 15 to be positive. So we could have 5 and 3, or we could have 15 and 1, and that's it. That's all I can think of, factors of 15. Now we need to consider which of these add up to 8. Clearly, it's 5 and 3, so we're going to say plus 5 plus 3, and now we have that factored. So we determined factors. Sorry, I forgot to check this off as we went. Shame on me. Check. Determine signs. We did that. Check. Determine proper combination of factors. We did that. Check. And we can check by foiling. So when we're done, we're going to check by foiling. Boom, boom. Shake the room. We're going to do these ones too. This is how I like to do it. So we have x times x gives me x squared. 3x. 5 times x gives me 5x. Plus 15. Don't forget, we still have the parentheses with the 2 out in front. Okay, we're going to combine these to have like terms. We have x squared plus 8x plus 15. We have the 2 out in front, so we're going to distribute that. We get 2x squared plus 16x plus 30. Is that what we started with? It sure is. So we know we did this correctly. Boom, we're done. Excellent work. Let's go ahead and we're going to do this next one a little bit quicker, but we're going to apply these same steps here. First, we're going to look for greatest common factor. As you can see here, we have a common factors for both the variable and the coefficients, the numerical coefficients. So we can factor out an x in each one of these and also a 3. So we're going to factor out 3x from all of these. What are we going to be left with? We're going to be left with x squared minus 10x plus 9. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set up our 2 parentheses. Don't forget about the 3x out in front. We're going to think of our factors of x squared. We're going to think of our factors of, let me change this to pink, of 9. Put those there, put those there. Put our factors of x squared there and there in the first slot and then second slot respectively. Our factors of x squared. X and x are only it. Factors of 9. We have a couple combinations here. We have 3 and 3. We have 9 and 1. Now, this is where it gets tricky. This is this. What step is this? One of those numbers. We have to determine the sign. Notice how this sign is positive and this is negative. If this second sign, the third term is positive, that means the signs need to match. That means they both need to be positive or they both need to be negative to be multiplied together. So negative 9, negative 1, or negative 3 and negative 3, or positive, 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 okay? They both have to match. Now, look at the middle term. We have a good indication that they both need to be negative because the sum needs to be a negative number. So clearly, we can rule out all of these terms because these are all positive and there's no way we're going to get negative from them. Okay, so now, which of these are the correct option? Well, the sum of these guys is negative 6. These have a sum of negative 10. These are our guys right here. So we're going to put in negative 9, negative 1, and that's going to be our correct factorization here. What color should I pick to circle? How about this purple? Normally I'd check, but for the sake of time, I want to proceed to the next problem. Okay, this next guy, this is where it gets a little tricky. Notice how there's no factors, common factors here, so we can't factor anything out, but we didn't get rid of this 2 here. So what do? Well, what I like to do is set up your 2 parentheses just like you did before. Now, we have 2x squared, and we have negative 21 that we're finding factors of. So hold on, I need to underline this, and I need to underline this guy. This guy, this guy, and the first slot. So we have 2x squared, and then we have negative 21. What are our factors of negative 21? Well, we could have negative 21, 1. We could have 21, negative 1. We could have negative 7, 3. We could have positive 7, negative 3. Those are all our combinations. 2x squared, what could we have? We could have 2x and x, and that is it. Those are the only factors there. Because there's only one set of factors, we're going to put 2x and x. Now, it matters where you put this because they're not the same. Before, we always had x, so it doesn't matter which one we put where because they're exactly the same. But now they're not exactly the same, and it matters where you put them. Why? Well, when we're talking about the sum for the middle term, we get that sum by multiplying the outside terms and then adding that to the product of the inside terms. So think of this as a puzzle. This product of the outside terms, this product plus this product needs to add up to give you this middle term right here. If you guys can understand that and understand this is a puzzle, this is like a combination lock that you need to try different factors and brainstorm and use some strategy to figure out this problem, you guys are going to do just fine, okay? Now, one thing you could do is you could just go ahead and you could try each one of these factors. You could try negative 21, you could try negative 1 or positive 1, and you could just go through the whole list one at a time. Okay? Now, notice this. I'm going to show you why this is not a good idea. If you multiply 2x times negative 21, what do you get? You get negative 42x. That's way far away from negative 11x. And then you're going to be left with 1x here. You're not even close to negative 11x. So clearly, picking big numbers and then multiplying them by coefficient of 2 is not helpful at all. So we need to be strategic here. Because it's negative 11x, we need to look for products between 2, this product here, and some of these products, one of these products, that gets us close to negative 11. So what gets us close? Well, we already found out that 2 times 21 doesn't get anywhere close. 2 times 1 doesn't get us really close to negative 11. Okay, so let's try 2 times 3 gets us 6. That's getting there. 2 times negative 7 gets us negative 14. That is very close. Now we need to try, we're going to try these ones right here. Oops, let me do this. We're going to try these combinations because we realize that those products get us close to negative 11. I know I might be talking over your head a little bit. Once you do this more and more, you're going to see that you can use some strategy beforehand so you're not just kind of going blind. So what happens if I'm going to try another wrong combination? What happens if I try positive 7, negative 3? Well, I multiply the 2x times the 7, I get positive 14x, and then I get negative 3x. That's wrong, because if I add these together, I get a positive 11x. Keep in mind, if you know the middle term is negative, that means the negative team needs to win. They need to be the biggest. So if you already know you're going to be multiplying this last term here by 2, you want that to be your negative term because that's going to be your biggest one most of the time. I mean, you're going to choose it to be the biggest one. So I want this to be negative 7, and I want this to be positive 3. What happens? I do 2x times negative 7. That gives me negative 21x. And I do 3 times x gives me positive 3x. Oops, sorry. 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. I don't know where I got 21 from. 14. Negative 14x plus 3x. What do I get? I get negative 11x. There's my answer. So this is a way you can get it done right there. 2x plus 3. So my final answer is 2x plus 3 times x minus 7. And there you go. Let's do 2 more examples. I'm going to try to go a little bit quicker through these ones so you get the idea. Okay, my parentheses, I go here. Now, let me choose a different color. Sorry. Parentheses here. I don't want this video to be too long. Always feel free to fast forward at any time. Again, my factors go here for this guy and then here for this guy. Well, the 2 is going to be easy because there's only 2 and 1. And I noticed that we have positive, positive, so we're only looking at positive factors. That makes it a little easier for us. Then we have 5x squared. That only have 5x and x. So it's not too bad. So I'm going to go ahead and put 5x, x. Now I need to be smart here, knowing full well that these outside terms are going to be multiplied together and these inside terms are going to be multiplied together to give me that middle term there. I need to get close to 11, so I shouldn't multiply 5 times 1. That's not close, but guess what? 5 times 2 is very close. So I'm going to multiply 5 times 2, and I'll put positive 1 there. There is my final answer right here. Boom. 5x plus 1 times x plus 2. Last one here. Notice how we have some negatives going on. We're going to put our factors of 2x squared here, 2x squared, boom, boom. And then our factors of negative 7, boom, boom, negative 7. Okay, 2x squared. Well, that gives us 2x and x. We only have one option there. Now we have an issue. What do we need to do to get this negative? We have a negative and a negative. That means our signs need to be the opposite. So we have negative 7, positive 1, or positive 7, negative 1. And we need to get to negative 13x. So let's think here. We know we're going to be multiplying by a 2. 2x, x. So what can we multiply by 2 to get close to negative 13? Well, hopefully you see that it's a negative 7 we should be multiplying. Keeping in mind that we're going to be multiplying these outside terms and then adding it to these inside terms to get this middle term here. So clearly I need to multiply 2x times negative 7 to get negative 14. That will give me negative 14x. And then I would be adding this to 1x. Negative 14x plus 1x gives me negative 13x. I have my answer, which is this. I'm trying highlighting this time. Hopefully that looks a little bit better for you. Hope you found this helpful, and I will see you next time on West Explains Best.